Hello and welcome to another episode of Cascadia Mountain Weather. It's Thursday, April 4th, 2024. This is a photo I took from last weekend, taking advantage of the nice weather. Did a few tours in the North Cascades. This is off the Cascade River Road. And you can see that, we're dealing with like pretty thin snow coverage down low. This was almost at 4,000 feet and not on a south aspect, on shaded aspect. And still there's like barely any snow. We're like skinning through boulder fields and alder. Definitely made the approach more difficult. And it felt more like maybe early May rather than late March. Up high, we did find much better snow coverage and much better snow conditions. But there's definite line around 4,000 to 5,000 feet. Where below that, you might not even find any snow. And definitely above 5,000, the snowpack becomes quite deep rather quickly. So we've seen this many times before, but the snow water equivalent in the Cascades of Washington is not very good right now. Generally 60% up north on the Olympics, and then better down towards 80% in the south. Over the last few days, we've gotten a little bit of snow with a little bit below average temperatures. So here's the 72-hour snowfall for the last 72 hours, and most areas have only picked up maybe 2 to 3, 4 inches. The exception being maybe the volcanoes and the Mountain Loop Highway kind of west central zone, which probably got some convergent zone action just to the east of Everett. This is the NWAC weather station for White Chuck Mountain, which is in that band of heavier snow over the last few days. The elevation is at 5,000 feet. And after, a few warm days this weekend where temperatures were freezing at night and then becoming warm during the day, we haven't really seen the temperature go above freezing at 5,000 feet for the last few days. Moderate winds, and we've seen some new snowfall. So the snow depth was at 109 inches. Now it's at 119. An increase of 10-inch snow depth means that it probably got more like 15 plus inches of fresh snow. So that area has certainly gotten more, but in other areas like the passes, we've only seen a few inches. This weekend's going to continue to be unsettled, unfortunately. I don't think it's going to be a drencher, but there's no real clear weather windows, at least in the mountains. And there's probably going to be mixed cloud cover to pretty thick cloud cover for a lot of the weekend. So this is the windy model for clouds, and we'll just let it go through Friday. So Friday, we might see some clearing a little bit, especially in the afternoon on the west side of the mountains. But then going into Saturday, we just have like new rounds of showers and clouds. I'll stop it kind of here. Notice there's, a pretty strong rain shadowing effect. So we might see more sun out in eastern Washington, might be comfortable temperatures out at Vantage and other places like that. And Sunday is relatively similar to Saturday. I think there's a slightly better chance of seeing the sun in the mountains, at least in the afternoon. So here, notice the clouds are kind of burning off. That was Sunday around 2, 3 p.m., 4 p.m. Yeah, so maybe a little bit better visibility on Sunday there. Precipitation, similarly, is going to be kind of spotty. So, Friday, not as much precipitation. And then Saturday, it's kind of the same thing. Like, I wouldn't count on this being precise, but just like bands of showers going through all through Saturday and most of Sunday. Now, with the differences in cloud cover, cloudier on the west side, sunnier on the east side, that's the kind of weather that typically gets winds going pretty strong through the eastern Cascade gaps when it becomes sunny, because this part will heat up more in the sun. You have lower pressure, and then the air races through. So, moving through the weekend, we definitely could see decently strong winds out in eastern Washington and, in the valleys like Ellensburg. And they calm down at night when there's less of a temperature difference, and they strengthen during the day typically. Here's the point forecast for Snoqualmie Pass. And at this elevation of 3,000 feet, most of the precipitation is probably going to be either mixed or rainfall. over this weekend. I think we're looking at generally around 4,000 foot freezing levels, although it'd be lower at night and maybe around that, maybe a little higher during the day. So it's a pretty middle of the road forecast with highs in the upper 30s, lows a little bit below freezing at night, and decent chance of precipitation every day. Maybe a slight drier window later on Sunday, as we noted earlier. This is the meteogram for the Snoqualmie Pass area. So this kind of shows this is at different heights in the atmosphere, where there might be clouds. So we can see around here is at 6,000 feet, probably 10,000 feet up here. And this isn't necessarily gospel, but this can kind of give you an idea of the type of cloud cover we're looking at. And so, yeah, pretty thick clouds throughout Saturday and Sunday, maybe Sunday afternoons, a little bit better, and moderate precipitation. Again, never that heavy, maybe a little heavier Saturday afternoon, but just kind of pretty typical unsettled spring weather. Here's the NWAC forecast by different zones. And the avalanche danger is mostly low in most places because it's cooled down after a warm period and we haven't really had much fresh snow. It's a little bit higher the West Slope Central and Baker area just because it's gotten more fresh snow. So I think skiing this weekend, I don't think it's in most cases truly bad, but I don't think it's, as good of a window as last weekend. Below 5,000 feet, the snow might feel kind of heavy. There might be not that much fresh snow over what probably is a crust on most aspects. I think higher elevation north aspects may not have gotten a crust last weekend. So the fresh snow would sit on it better and probably ski better. But then again, we probably aren't going to see great visibility. So, it's not an awful weekend to get out, but it's definitely not as good as last weekend. I think though, it's not going to be that wet. So if you're looking to get out just for running or hiking, biking, it could be pretty good. And then I think the rock climbing has potential in the drier parts. So long-term, we're looking at probably maybe a wetter day early next week. That's what the Euro is going for right here. But then late next week, middle of next week to late next week, a ridge building back probably across the Pacific Northwest. So that would lead to warmer temperatures, maybe sunnier skies. So you can see this is for Snoqualmie Pass, the temperature increasing from about Tuesday on through next weekend. Now, there's considerable uncertainty that far out, but it does seem that there's a chance at least for maybe nicer, warmer spring weather. So that's the forecast for the upcoming weekend. We'll have more details next week, and thank you for listening.